One of the rarest achievements in the game is Foe Hammer, which is beating the game in honor mode. It doesn't mean it's that hard, as long as you approach it with certain builds and tactics. I've already covered Act 1, so in this video I'll be covering Act 2 and 3.
Repent.
From convincing your enemies to take themselves out, to the benefits of sneaking around, pretending to work with your opponents only to stab them in the back for the best possible positioning, the builds I use to make this a walk in the park, as well as how to get the most out of your spells. In Act 2, you want to stop on by near the House of Healing. You can find this hidden stash nearby, which contains the key ingredient to craft a powerful poison. You'll find this location through a book in the back room of the Waning Moon. You want to be in sneak mode here because right to the south of this is the Githyanki Ambush, which is also right next to the waypoint that leads you to Baldur's Gate. So you want to separate your party and leave some far enough behind. That way everyone in your party gets to act first. Members in your group can also cast support spells like Haste without even entering combat, as long as you just leave them far back enough. So the build I'm using is a Rogue Assassin Gloomstalker for my main character, Elf class for the Longbow proficiency, 7 levels in the Rogue, 5 in the Ranger. Karlach is a open-handed monk, 9 levels are into monk and 3 are into rogue thief for the bonus attack. Those two are pretty standard for builds that just dish out a lot of damage. Ascended Astarion also works pretty good as a open-handed monk. For Gale, I was tinkering around with Wizard Sorcerer, but learning spells for wizards uses intelligence, and sorcerers scale with charisma, which is a weird skill attribute split. The extra spell per turn every now and then was pretty nice, but I eventually just opted out for full wizard for the higher level spells and the full damage to go along with them. Then I have Shadowheart as a full cleric. I never really ran healer in balance mode most of the time, but you definitely want one in honor mode, and full cleric has some pretty nice late game spells. I also went for War Priest, as Guided Strike, Spiritual Weapon, and Spirit Guardians are just kind of overpowered. For the easiest way to break out the prisoners at Moonrise Towers, you want to toss the Observer Eyes into the pit when no one's looking, then take out the guards one by one, waiting till the warden makes her way around to you. You can use some AoE spells to help with her invisibility, as I had Volo's Eye on Gale and he still couldn't detect her. This is the easier way than trying to sneak them out, as normally the guards will end up spotting you when Barkus tries to break out the tieflings. Then not only will you have to fight all of them at once, but they'll potentially end up killing some of the prisoners. Up in the tower you'll find another 2 eyes and another 2 guards. That's where you'll find Barkus' hammer, but you can use any to help him break out. You can pop the gates with the controls in the guard tower, but you want to wait till they start the breakout. Otherwise they'll end up running through the main entrance and just end up getting killed. Opening the gates will end up saving you some time to meet up with Barkus, but you will end up missing out on the tadpole that's on the back route there.
Good work.
You can take out all the thorms with a high enough dialogue, which I ended up doing for everyone but Malus, since I never ended up fighting him on my previous playthroughs. You can easily take him out from the high ground up here though, using any melee units to sneak around to get their first attack on him as well. In case you're wondering, can't heal their patient.
Take you.
You're here. Good.
I did everything in Act 1 and 2, and it seems like you gain experience a lot slower in honor mode. To help Halsin lift the curse, it's pretty easy to defend with Spirit Guardians, or any radiant damage. Definitely want a lot of AoE damage, and can use Fog to protect the portal as well. For Yurgir, you want to sneak up behind him, rather than following his lover. You can jump over the ledge here and get the surprise on him. You just want to be in sneak mode, and you need a high enough perception or you won't detect him. You can get off a few attacks before even starting combat. You should take out your gear first, and on the first turn as well. You will toss a bunch of bombs after taking so much damage. The Murguns have a fire, poison immunity, and also have cold, slashing, bludgeoning, and piercing resistance, which just leaves you lightning, force, and psychic damage. You don't want to bunch up because they'll throw a bunch of bombs at you. Putting your party behind the wall will try to lure them near all the bombs. You can put your party all the way behind Balthazar so that you can take him out first and avoid his minions. And you do want to take him out first because when a creature dies, Balthazar's legendary action lets him create necrotic damage to living creatures while also healing undead. Guardian of Faith works really good here. He'll provide a wall and he does extra damage to undead creatures. For Ketheric, you can sneak up on them as well. Use some AoE on the Skellies to take them out first, as you have to continue fighting them after Ketheric has retreated. Having Jaheira and the Night Song can help you out with the fight. I just sent up Karlach to tank it, but that wasn't the best idea, as he does hit pretty hard. So it'd be a better idea to send up a summon instead to absorb some of that damage. If you try to convince them to surrender, which takes some pretty hard rolls on the first fight, then you can convince them to surrender on the second fight. Totally avoiding having to fight him down here will make it a lot easier. You'll just have to end up fighting Merkel.
He is watching. He is listening. You dare end one who belongs to me.
With party separation and sneaking, you have a huge advantage here. You don't alert with teleportation or jumping, letting you set up perfectly. Merkel's legendary action, Gaze of the Dead, affects the first creature that damages them each turn. It ends up doing damage as well as causing you to be frightened, but you can easily avoid that by just using any summon to get in that first attack. You can use someone to sneak up and free the Night Song right behind the Mind Flayer's back. You want to take out the Mind Flayer after that, as he does have the ability to use Dominate Person on the Night Song, which was pretty nasty on my last playthrough. You end up freeing her, and then she just ends up smacking you down. Using Drop Weapon on the Fighter class is also really great here to avoid Merkel's Reaper's Scythe, which tends to kill most party members instantly when they get hit by that. You can also avoid that by just spreading out and only putting 1 or 2 party members near him to melee him. Up to this point, I've done everything in Act 1, 2, and in Rivington. When I entered Baldur's Gate, I was only level 9 or 10, thinking I'd have to do just about everything in Act 3, but I didn't. I ended up skipping most of it, actually. Doing these 5 things got me to level 12. I ended up just skipping the Foundry as well because, well, I bombed Gortash in this castle. Not the best option because the brain will end up taking over the Steel Watch, and you'll have to end up fighting them in town once you take out Orin. A few people have lost their honor mode runs at the Emperor's house. It's a unsuspecting place, but if you didn't already know, all the Githyanki fights are like boss fights. But if you sneak up on them and approach them from either the left or the right side, rather than just going down the center where they can all attack you from the high ground, it definitely makes it a lot easier. You don't have to fight Lorroakan to get all of the items in the tower, but if you do want to take him out, you definitely want to silence him. Otherwise he'll return enough damage to nearly kill you with his counterattack. Once you do, it makes it a pretty easy fight. Some other people might want to give it the Night Song here, but apparently she's got a legendary ability where she summons more angels, and a lot of people have mentioned losing their honor mode runs here. I've talked about these 2 staffs a lot because they're just that good. They provide you with a free spell of any level. One is found here at Sorcerer's Sundries on the middle floor, and the other is found at the House of Hope in a hidden room right across from Raphael's succubus, which I totally didn't have sex with a female version of. So each party member can cast an extra 2 level 6 spells, as you can just swap the staffs around. Really strong for those level 6 summons or buffs like Hero's Feast, which will last to your next long rest. Hero's Feast and things like Summoning the Angel are 2 of the benefits of maxing out Cleric, as you don't get those spells until level 11. And Hero's Feast makes you immune to diseases, poison, and being frightened, as well as making all wisdom and saving throws having an advantage. It also increases your maximum hit points by 12, which also works for all of your summons. Some people say Raphael is a pretty risky fight, and the true late game boss, but you don't even need to fight him unless you want Hope's Gloves. It really isn't that hard of a fight though, as I just had Shadowheart cast Death Ward on everyone, which restores you to 1 health if you die. I had the Blood of Lathander on her, which does basically the same thing, and I had an amulet that basically does the same thing from Lady Esther, so plenty of lifelines, but I never needed it. The main thing is to toss Elixir of Fire Resistance on everyone, as that's the main form of damage that you receive. Having Karlach in your party helps as well, as she's already fire resistant. You want to silence Raphael first, then focus on his minions. I just ignored the towers, which Raphael draws power from. They do take extra damage from Psychic, but it's just not required to take them out. You can also use Counterspell on Raphael, but it has to be a level 6 counterspell or it won't work. Besides the Angel summon, the level 6 Water Elemental is another one of my favorite summons. It's the only elemental that can heal you. Not just heal you, but heals everyone in a very large area. I did use a lot of summons here though to absorb a lot of damage, and just to body block them from each side. The Angel summons are really great here as their radiant damage does extra damage. They can also frighten their opponents, which also works great with the Mummy summon, as they have a special ability that only works on frightened targets. Just make sure to spread out, as Raphael's attacks do a lot of AoE damage. You can convince Yurgir to join your side, and hopefully you have freed hope at this point as well, as your healing can really turn the tide in your favor. For Sarevok, you can just agree to become his blood assassin, then just shoot him in the back when he opens the door. You can then attack him freely without his followers even noticing for a while. For Orin, she basically has the same legendary ability as Sarevok, runs in the family. It's just a invulnerability for so many hits, except Orin's refreshes from the skull at the temple, and pretty often. So multiple attack spells work really great here, like Magic Missile and Scorching Ray. There are a lot of allies you can get for the final battle, but one of my favorite is the Strange Ox. I mean, Yurgir has 136 health, and the Strange Ox has 323. He can morph into 4 different forms, some with unique abilities. When getting up to the brain, you can totally avoid getting bombed, and do it in just one turn with some companions that have some high mobility. Then you can just totally avoid the final brain fight and have Gale detonate himself, which still counts as a completion for your honor mode run. You might have to persuade him with some dice rolls, but for me he was just willing, and I even gave him the book as well.
Farewell, and happy land.
After beating it in honor mode, I was a little surprised that it was still so rare of an achievement, so I just chalked it up as people not being interested in doing it. I didn't think it was that hard, so I wanted to see where people lost their runs at, and I stumbled across the worst, yet most hilarious way to lose an honor mode run on.